monsters on Monday, the toilet flushing on Wednesday, what if you don't pick me up by Friday? If your child seems to have a brand new fear every single week, is it normal? Well, for most children, yes, absolutely. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a pattern that honestly causes immense stress for caregivers who are just trying to keep up with their child's rapidly changing anxieties.
Let's start by precisely naming this exhausting reality, because if that little sequence sounded exactly like your week, you are absolutely not alone. We call this the childhood fear churn. It's this shifting parade of specific fears that can make you feel like you're constantly putting out emotional fires, right? One day, it's a drain monster in the bathtub, and then literally the next day, it's a dog at the park.
And when you're living right in the middle of this churn, it is completely natural to look at this endless conveyor belt of specific fears and ask a very serious question. Is this normal? Like, does this mean my child is developing an anxiety disorder? It feels super unstable, doesn't it? It's like their little nervous system is just stuck in overdrive. But we are going to decisively answer that right now. Yes, this is completely normal. In fact, as the research clearly shows, this churn is actually a highly reassuring sign of a healthily developing mind. It is not a warning sign of instability. So you can take a deep breath, treat this passing parade of fears as a developmental stage, not an emergency. It literally just means their brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, let's move into our first major section, an age-graded timeline. We're going to look at the predictable sequences of these fears.
The science behind why these specific fears pop up exactly when they do is honestly fascinating. The content of your child's fear isn't random. It follows a remarkably predictable sequence based on their cognitive growth. So in infancy and toddlerhood, the fears are all about separation and strangers because they're just developing attachment and object permanence. Then they hit the preschool and early school years and boom, their imagination explodes. So what happens? Suddenly they fear animals, the dark, and imaginary creatures like monsters. They literally just gain the cognitive capacity to imagine things that aren't in the room. Moving into middle childhood, their awareness of real-world danger and social comparison really grows, leading to fears about bodily harm or peer rejection. And finally, older kids develop abstract thinking, which brings on those larger existential what-if worries. So see, this rotation of fears is just evidence of their brain leveling up.
Which brings us to section 2, the universal parent response, and exactly how we should react to all of this.
Right, so if we know this is just a passing stage and a sign of growth, what's the single most effective way a parent should react? How do we handle the fear of the day without accidentally making it worse? The crucial point is this 3-step, totally repeatable procedure that works across every single fear, focusing on gentle, graduated exposure. Step 1, validate the feeling. Never dismiss or mock it. Step 2, and man, this is where so many of us stumble. Do not accommodate it. Over-accommodating a fear, like, say, checking the closets every single night or entirely avoiding the park just because there might be a dog there, is exactly what turns a passing, normal fear into a sticky, persistent one. You really don't want to build elaborate avoidance routines. And step 3, support a small, brave step towards the feared thing. If you need a go-to script, this right here is the gold standard. That does feel scary. And you're safe. Let's look together. This calm, brief acknowledgement is incredibly powerful. It doesn't over-reassure, which actually heightens anxiety, but it also doesn't dismiss the reality. It simply validates the emotion, asserts safety, and gently invites them to face the fear. Doing this lets the fear pass on its own natural timeline, stopping it from taking root. Now let's look at section 3 red flags to watch and when you should actually seek help. So, how does all this build into our understanding of when professional intervention is needed? Because look, while the churn is normal, clinical anxiety disorders are very real, and they're actually among the most common psychiatric disorders in youth. When trying to distinguish normal fear churn from clinical anxiety, pervasiveness matters way more than variety. Let me explain that. If your child has a wide variety of fears, lots of brief, shifting fears that they eventually get over, that is reassuring. That's the churn we've been talking about. But if you have one fear that starts bleeding into multiple parts of daily life, or a constant overarching what-if worry that paralyzes them, that pervasiveness is the pattern that definitely warrants a closer look. Specifically, clinical practice guidelines highlight 3 big red flags. Number 1 is persistence. The fear isn't just passing in a few days or weeks, it's dragging on for months. Number 2 is intensity. We're talking about severe, inconsolable reactions. And number 3 is genuine functional impairment. This means the fear is actively ruining normal life.
They're consistently refusing school, they aren't sleeping, or they're entirely avoiding everyday normal activities. If you see these 3 red flags appearing together, it is absolutely time to consult a pediatrician or child psychologist.
But I really want to emphasize this. If a fear does cross that line into an anxiety disorder, the outlook is incredibly good. First-line professional help is highly effective and very safe. Specifically, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, has massive empirical support behind it. CBT helps kids understand the connections between their worries, thoughts, and behaviors, and it uses structured, graduated exposure to help master those fears. So even if you do need to step up to professional support, you've got excellent, proven tools ready to go.
Finally, we're at Section 4, Building a Brave Plan, Creating a Skill Set for Life.
As parents, we really need to shift our mindset away from trying to fight or eliminate each individual fear as it pops up. Instead of playing an exhausting, endless game of whack-a-mole with monsters, drains, and dogs, your goal is to teach them a brave plan. And a totally fantastic tool for this is the Fear Me Not app. It helps you build a fear ladder, a reusable psychological skill set where you help your kid take tiny, graduated steps toward whatever is scaring them that week using the app's guided frameworks. You're literally teaching your child to replace avoidance with competence. So when the next new fear inevitably arrives, because let's be real, it will, they already have the toolkit to process it.
By using resources like the Fear Me Not app, you're setting them up for long-term success. Remember, children are constantly reading our parental alarm as evidence that the world really is a dangerous place. So keep your own reactions steady. Your confident, matter-of-fact guidance helps each fear move along so much faster. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this empowering question to ask yourself the next time a brand new fear pops up. What small, brave step will you support today? Thank you so much for joining us, and remember that shifting parade of fears just means their incredible little mind is growing exactly as it should.